Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Chrono88 here. I was requested this video from a couple of my commenters that wanted to see a way to start up Antistasi and how to get it going and all the mods I use and things of that nature. So in my future videos, I will have a mod list included for you guys to view. But until that time, this is what I'm going to show from installing mods up to starting your first game and getting it rolling. So first off, you're going to go in your Arma 3. Going to go to Workshop. Going to search up Antistasi Ultimate. Now there's a variety of Antistasi Ultimates, and also Antistasi Plus, old school Antistasi. Some of them are antiquated and they don't work anymore. Some of them still work. It just depends on what you want. All of them have kind of different settings. Some respond better to mods than others. But as of right now, for me, myself, I find Antistasi Ultimate the best for me. So you click on Antistasi Ultimate, it will look like this, and you subscribe. It will usually require you to get at least CBA A3, which is just a mod for the game, so you want to get that as well. And as you can see down here, there's a variety of other mods based on what you want to fight in your game, or maps, or different areas. They even have things for Star Wars, they have things for Warhammer 40k, there's ones that include Vietnam and other things, so it all depends on what mods you have, what expansions you have. You can play it with almost any. Again, you just get limited by weapons and other options when you play without mods or without expansions. So once you subscribe to all those, you're going to go up to fire up your game. And when your game fires up, you're going to get this dashboard. So you want to scroll down to the mod section. This is what I use currently. I use about 30 mods, and that's just my personal preference. But each person has their own choices on what you want. I have over 100 other mods. Some of them I use, some of them I don't. But very quickly, you have the RHS mods, which add extra factions, weapons, kit, a variety of things. I would highly recommend them for any Antistasi campaign you run. There's 4 or 5 RHS mods, and I highly recommend them. But it's all your personal preference. You have CBA3, which is a core game mod required. This just terrain, maps, different things that help the aesthetic of the game. Enhanced movement, so you can like vault over higher objects. Squad radar, if you play with teammates, you can have like a little radar that makes it a little bit easier to see everyone. One I highly recommend and I really like is Ace No Medical, which basically allows you to have all the benefits of Ace combat without the medical that is much more complicated, requiring, like epinephrine, morphine, tourniquets. And I find in Antistasi, especially in a solo playthrough, it just kind of makes things a little bit more complicated that you don't really want to worry about. So just this way, you just get those first aid kits that you see me use. Keeps it very simple, very basic. If you do play with a bunch of friends and you want to try something a little bit more challenging, obviously don't need to install this. Tier 1 weapons is just different weapons. 3CB is different factions. So some of the rival factions that I have in my current campaign at Takistan don't exist in basic Antistasi. This is a blast effect, so it just gives me all my cool explosions and like sound waves. And your Antistasi itself, the better inventory mod, which is just great for the standard mod, or the standard inventory that comes with Arma 3, I think is fairly weak. So I prefer this version, and it just makes things a little bit more seamless. Thank you. Next, you have automatic warning suppressor. This is just a cool little mod that I found that kind of, a lot of times mods will have conflicts or things not necessarily game breaking, but it just gives you like a little error code, and it just gets annoying. So I have this that just automatically eliminates all of those. So there could potentially be some conflicts in my game mods that I don't know about, but this, I know what works and what doesn't, and at this point I just don't need to see little warnings about a random graphic that doesn't work or a random scope that didn't load in. So Real Engine is just for different kind of responses to getting hit and shot. Same with death hit reactions, some ragdoll physics, all sorts of different mods, improved grenades creators, and random little things that are just supposed to help the game out. So we're going to run with that, and then once you're done loading all your mods, you click play with mods. If you're going to be having friends join you, they can come down here to servers, and this is what I find the easiest way. Once you've hosted your server, they can either find it by clicking on your friends, or they can do direct connect if you have the server name and IP address. And when they connect through this method, they can see an option to set up and load mods in accordance with your server. So then if they want to join you, it will tell them all the mods to load and it will load them all and go in. Whereas if they just set them all themselves and then play, it can sometimes not load the mod that they want, or maybe you have a slightly different one. It just makes it a little bit more seamless to get everyone connected and playing together. So I highly recommend that you join this way if you're running your own little private server for you and your friends. So we'll load up Antistasi and then we'll be right back and see. All right, so if you're in here and you're in the game, you should see something like this. Down in the bottom of the screen, you can see all my expansions that I have. I have basically every Arma expansion. And then below that, you have all your mods. So you can see that you have the RHS and all the stuff I talked about before. So when you're in here, there's a few different ways you can do. You can do scenarios and you can do Antistasi through this way, where you can do like things like up here and different other things. But I prefer, and I don't really use it that way. So I usually always set up a multiplayer server. Just that way, if my friends do want to come play, they can. So click on multiplayer, server browser. Up top here, there's an option for host server. Now, if you're LANing, obviously, if you had a bunch of buddies over the computer, you could do that through LAN. But if not, you just do internet, your ports, how many players, whatever your password is, random numbers here. And then you always want to collect push UPnP. Just helps with people connecting to you. And then you hit host server. So you'll come up here. You'll see your different games. I see I have a variety of different mods. But see, for here right now, most people start on Altis. Altis is a good map for Antistasi. So you click Antistasi Ultimate, Altis, and you hit play. Now, you'll load in here and you'll see this options right away. If you don't see this, if this is a blank screen, or you don't have an option to pick something else here, like it will usually just have no role selectable, that usually means that one of your mods didn't load correctly. If one of your mods doesn't load correctly, then sometimes it won't allow you to play Antistasi. So all you got to do is then back out, either re-host again, or back all the way out, go to your mod list, have all your mods selected, and then come back in and fire up Arma 3, and that should work. If that doesn't work, then sometimes you got to completely manually unload all mods, or unsubscribe to like Antistasi and then resubscribe. But I've never really needed to do that. I've only had to restart Arma itself. So you always want to pick commander if you're playing by yourself. Based on what your friends pick, it does make a difference. So if they each role has a little bit more, some have a little bit more stamina if you're playing with stamina. Some of them have a little bit more notoriety, I guess, like where the enemies will target you more if you're a team leader, things of that nature with the AI. But one of the bigger things is you want to pay attention to is engineers. Typically, you want your friends to be engineers because they can then do things as like a combat sapper, where they can then plant explosives, where typically only you can. But then they can plant like IEDs, and they can plant explosives, mines, clear them, and also repair vehicles and things of that nature. So usually you don't really need to worry about the individual roles too specifically, but I do recommend that people pick engineer, because you'll have sometimes people will try to use explosives and it doesn't work. And that's only because you're the default commander, you get everything. So you click on default commander and you click OK. And let it load in. Now the old Antistasi used to be a big pain in the butt with creating games and making sure you didn't overwrite your save file. But the new Antistasi almost has like a individual save file system that works really good. And I really like it. So that we can have multiple campaigns going on at once. If you have one you're playing with your friends and one you're playing solo, and then that things of that nature just makes it way easier. So you come to your map, you hit continue to here in the bottom right corner, and you get your options. So I have my Takistan maps. I have some other ones that I've been playing and trying out. And then you hit create new game. So you can load, you can copy old game, you can load old parameters, you can do all sorts of things. But the first thing you want to do is select HQ position. So when you select HQ position, you can pick wherever you want in the map that you want to set your soldier. So Altis is way bigger than Takistan, the map that I was playing. So it's a little bit different. But I find the first area here, that the base area is good. You just got to travel a little bit further than you'd typically like to for most of your stuff. So you pick a spot, you want to zoom in. You want to find a place with a building, somewhere where you can hide Petros. And you don't want to be too close to outposts or any major military bases or airstrips, because it makes the resistance way harder, and how much reinforcements they send much larger. Typically, you want to play a place close to a building close to a town first. Usually a couple towns, because the supply missions that we've done are easy to do, a good way to break into it, and a good way to get started. So let's pick a place over here really quickly. And you also want to pick a place fairly central if you can, because you want to make it so you can always move your base. That's no problem. You can pack up Petros, hop in a car, and move him. But you want to make it, and you usually will do that as the game progresses, just to make things a little bit simpler. So pick a place that's kind of close to some towns. Let's see what we got here. See if there's any little gray buildings. Okay, we'll pick this place just for example. So we'll select our headquarters, click close. Now you want to go in the top and select factions. So you're going to be picking, this does matter for you. So based on who you pick, you'll get different weapons. And it usually describes the type of weapons you're going to get in some fashion. You get Panzerfausts, you get random smoothbore rifles, you get Mosin Nagants, PPSHs, things of that nature. So you pick whoever you feel like picking. That's not a big deal. It's not the end of the world, other than your initial starting weapons. Some of them start with a Panzerfaust for an anti-tank. That's really hard to use, but otherwise you just pick one that you like. Civilians don't matter. It's just strictly for your own appearance. Your rivals, again, depending on which mod you have, are the ones that are different ones that are available. There's the standard ones, and you can even play with the standard Arma weapons. So it's whatever you want to do. Now you can pick your occupants. So we'll pick the USMC or the US Army, and we'll pick the Russians as the invading force. And then we'll pick all things from RHS just for quick figuring out. And then you can also you select options here that will allow you to pick different sides. So if you actually want the occupants to be Russian and the invaders to be the Americans, you can override side limits or switch enemy sides, and it just kind of changes. It allows you to access whatever military you want on whatever screen. So you're kind of not limited by anything there. Additional content based on what packs you have, what DLCs you have. You can add whatever you want to be available or in the game. So that's, again, all comes down to your own personal preference. Usually I have everything selected, and then I have everything selected over here, but it's all what you want in your game. That's the nice thing about it. Now, a few things we're going to go over here is in the parameters. So this matters quite a bit. So the initial things you don't want to change. So you can either have it just have no invaders. You can have it versus occupiers and invaders. And you can just have it where they're all against you just against them, or it's like a one-on-one-on-one, which is usually what I like, the initial option. So you'll fight the American forces in this case, and you'll also have the invading Russian forces that the Americans will fight, and they'll fight you. So just whatever you like, again, based on your traffic, based on your gameplay. So I usually allow fast travel allowed. It's always what you want. And friendly player markers. Again, if you're going for a realistic gameplay, you can set it to make it very minimal, where you can't really see your friends or things of that nature. But I always find, again, you're playing against computers, so they can always have like a little bit of a cheat. So if you're playing against players, then perhaps having all these options numbed down would be bad. But when you're just playing with friends, I don't think it has to be hyper realistic, but that's your preference. All these options are pretty initial. I don't really play with much of them. You can change your player money, how much money you have, how much manpower you start with. You can really make it you can make it like a hard mode where you have no money, no manpower, or you can have it be way easier. Start with a bunch of money so you can buy a bunch of stuff and not worry about anything. Usually revive times I lower to about 8 seconds. Again, I've done enough. I played enough. I'm playing solo right now. I don't need to have a super long revive time and make things super harder on myself. I don't need that. But if you want to play it, make it more difficult, then go for it. Now the self-revive method, that's the withstand that I always do in my videos. Again, if I was playing with any friends, I wouldn't have it. But if I'm playing by myself, I will, just to make a little cheap shot that, headshot from super far away. And it just makes my gameplay a little bit easier. Then you come down, you got cosmetics, you got zombies spawning, you got a whole bunch of different things you can have based on what you want. None of this is really too important, but you can also disable fatigues here. So if you don't want to, again, if you're playing realistic and you want to have like weight management and stamina management, but again, you're playing versus computers, they don't have to worry about that. They don't have to worry about bullets, like they don't have to worry about gun sway. It just kind of takes it away from you and makes it way harder on you than it needs to. So again, if you're playing versus players, obviously you might want to have something all on, but in that case, I usually turn all of this off. Mag repack, that's just different parameters for like repacking mags, so you can kind of combine mags. You always want to have like improved towing of vehicles, just makes towing vehicles either. There's loot crates and loot helicopter crates, and those are also really good for later on in the game. Loot crate gather distance, so this is another big one. I always like to set this to the max, which is 100. And you see me use my loot crates in my videos. I just find them, there's just no point on making it any smaller than it needs to, because it's just, you're just saving time. Because when I first played at Antistasi, I never used loot crates, and it would take me hours after a major fight at an outpost to go around and manually loot everything. And it just, I don't have the time. I don't have the time for it. So it's your choice. If you don't want to use loot crates, or if you want to play it super hardball, then go for it. And then you can also change the loot crate price. And then you can have it also ignore unlocked items. So say you've unlocked your M20, your M16, it won't pick them up anymore. But again, your loot crate is more or less infinite space, so it doesn't really matter. And also if you're playing solo, how many people require to unflip a vehicle? Usually I select that to 1. I'm by myself. Again, if you get armored and your vehicle rolls, it's just a nicer way to have it. And you got just different ways for fast travel, where it checks for players only, checks for enemies, how many times a rally point can be used. You can also have it set so you can take control of an AI if you want to for like 60 seconds. And then you can even go over and like revive yourself. But a lot of times that can bug out and you like won't be able to use your weapon, things of that nature. So I usually don't play with that. How much your player loses when they die. How much things are saved. Just all sorts of different things. I see allow players to take control of AI units. I usually don't use it, again, because I find when I do, you take control of the AI, you try to revive yourself, the game kind of glitches, you go back to your original body, but you like can't shoot and you can't really do anything. So it just, I don't really like it. Random events are nice. There's like different things that can happen with regarding like helicopter crashes, things of that nature. So it's all fun stuff. And then also your rivals. Difficulty and how aggressive they are. So if you want the your rebel forces that come later in the game to be hyper aggressive, you can turn it up. But if not, then you don't have to. And then you come down to balance options. You can choose all sorts of like options for the military and how they're going to fight you, how much more they have, how much more aggressively they fight. It's all based on what you enjoy. I usually leave most of them default. Usually what I've been trying is making the enemy more difficult in skill, but less accurate. Like, so even something like 0.2 and 0.3, they're still hitting pretty consistently. So that way they at least employ some higher tactics, but they're not always going to laser beam you from across the map. So there's lots of Reddit threads and other threads on breaking down AI and the best settings, but I found that the higher you set the enemy skill, you want to lower the accuracy, because otherwise they just become snipers at 600 meters with iron sights. And what are you supposed to do? Like you can barely even render that distance. So that's what I don't like. And then you get futuristic weapons if you want to use different stuff. And then you can also pick here how many rebels can be garrisoned in a building, or a town. It all changes based on this number that you pick. And so if you want to be able to put 30 soldiers in a city, you can increase this number, but I don't really think that's necessary. The base 24 is more than fine, I think. And down here, again, it comes down to options for unlocking weapons. You can unlock, if you want to unlock it after finding 25 M16s, great. If you want to lower it, you can put it down to 10. If you want to just play easy and, you don't want to get it. And then I usually have the weapons unlock their magazine, their standard mag. Again, I just don't want to have to worry about, it just depends on how realistic you want to play, and if you want to worry about ammo management and things of that nature. If you do, then you could have it be no limit, no unlocks, and then you basically get what you get if you want to play like a hardcore mode. So it's all your choice. And then you can be like shoulder guided rockets. You can choose whether or not certain weapons come out, radios, food items if you play with food and you care about food. And then you can also choose what type of stuff can come in the loot crates. So that I don't usually play with. It's just all personal stuff. And then different development options if you're into that, but I'm not. So once you picked all that, I know it was long-winded. You come here, you reset our HQ position, start the game, and we start her up. And we let it load. I'll be right back. Alright, so you're going to hit spacebar, and we are in. So enter on your numpad, should be go to third person. Where is everybody? The inside here? Yeah, so you can move your base around. So if you go over it and you scroll wheel, move asset. So you can push it on the middle mouse button, default. You can change based on what you have your settings to, and drop. And then you push the middle mouse button again. And then we find Petros in here, so we're going to move him. We're going to put him outside. Again, middle mouse button, then middle mouse button. Watch out when you move these assets, because if they get caught on stuff, they can flip and kill you, or kill Petros. So that's careful. So we want to move our arsenal. Again, all middle mouse button, moving, dropping. And then drop that there. And then you come up here. Again, this doesn't happen every time. This is just if you try to put them in a weird spot. So, and drop it here. So you have your main thing, your main flag for your crew. This is where you start. And then you can recruit units here. So if I want to recruit some soldiers to be on my side, recruit some riflemen, and I have some homies. Or you can also travel to rally points by using this option, like if you have a rally point placed down. And that's about it for that. Here you can, this is your garage, quote unquote. So you can open your garage, you'll have your cars here, your tanks, helicopters, ships, and statics. You can customize everything. And if you have ammo, fuel, or repair vehicles in your garage, then you'll have these sources to repair all your stuff when you place it. Or reload it, refill it. You can restore nearby units. So this is almost like a free heal for everything when you get back to base. So you can click here, restore units, and everything will be refreshed. You'll be undercover again, and it's all lovely, lovely. And then you can also scroll down and buy vehicles. Based on what faction you pick, you'll have different vehicle options. The ones with the off-road or the Hilux are fantastic. The ones with the old Ladas and other things are kind of frustrating. So if you pick civilian vehicles, you will be undercover. If you pick rebel vehicles, you will not be undercover. And then obviously statics once you unlock them. And then you have things here of this nature for repair stations, build boxes for building different buildings, spare wheels if you lost a wheel, and fuel tanks, medical tents, everything that comes later on in the game. But you don't need to worry about that stuff. The only other thing you need to worry about is loot crates, which is this lovely thing that if you scroll down, so scroll wheel, well, I'm looking at it and then I'm holding space, and it will find all the loot within 100 meters and loot it up. Over here you have your game map where you can see the map. You can see your population, the army, how many people will be murdered, hopefully 0. And you can see how strong an outpost is. So I can see, so garrison weakened. You can see garrison good. So you can see how much resistance is in that base as well if you want to do some more looking around. Here you can also access game options. Persistent save, so if you want to save. And then other than that, we have your arsenal, which you can come into once it loads up. It always takes a long time the first time, and then after every other time it's much quicker. So it just loads up, and here you pick your kit. I'm not going to go through all this because I go through it in my main game, but again, each faction that you pick will have different weapons. K98. The only thing I'll say here is you get the Panzerfaust, and I made the mistake when I first played this game. It says there's more than enough, but there's no ammo. So you think you have no ammo for it, but it's just a single shot anti-tank. So if you take it, and you pull it out, you actually have one shot. So you do have a shot with it. So I never took it because I thought I never had any ammo with it when I first played with it. But you do. So that's one thing to keep in mind when you do use it. And you pick your arsenal, you save it, you go through all that we talked about before. Then also, you have this guy. You got to keep him alive at all costs. If he dies, you don't lose, but you got to repick your base, and you lose a lot of weapons out of your arsenal. So it is very imperative that you keep him alive. You can request missions. I've gone over the missions before, but you have assassination missions where you perhaps go after, shoot a trader, things of that nature, convoy ambushes, logistics, conquest, supply. Typically, initially, when you play the game, I highly recommend supply missions. They're very easy. You just bring some supplies in the back of a truck into a city, and you unload them, and you defend it for a little bit of time. Once you defend it for 2 minutes, I believe, then you get money. And then also, usually, if you kill the police officers in that town, the town will join you. And then that's kind of the start of your guerrilla warfare campaign. Same thing with assassination missions. Typically, you'll just have to drive to a town. You'll see a bunch of guards. But as long as you just shoot the one head guy and kill him and get out, you win. So you don't need to fight on the whole group. So if you can line yourself up, take a nice shot, get in, get out, you're laughing. So those are the two I recommend to start, especially the supply missions. The other ones, as you get more comfortable, can be varying in difficulty. And if you get one that's very difficult that you can't do, then just try doing something else for a little bit, or moving your base, or capturing some stuff, some local towns or resources before you try to do them again. So, for example, I'll request a supply mission. Deliver supplies to Cadillac. So we go look at our map, see the deliver supplies. So there's a little town here just south of us that we would take a vehicle and we would drop off supplies. So there should be some supplies somewhere. Where the heck are they? Usually they place supplies right down on the ground. I don't know where they went. That makes the mission a little bit more difficult. Unless they put them somewhere weird. Yeah, so they put them over here for some reason. So if I don't get stuck, I come over here, I buy a vehicle, and off-road, and I just looking around the map right now, and you can push space to place it down, or you can rotate it with Q and E, or push escape if you don't want to buy it. So push space, puts the vehicle down, I come up to this, I scroll wheel again. Most things are done with most map interactions are done with scroll wheel. And then I push it on my middle mouse button, and it loads it in. And now I would just drive it to the town, unload it close to where the marker is. It doesn't have to be exact, but close to it. Usually set up in a building and guard it out. Sometimes they'll send a little bit of a force, usually not very much. And that's how you would do a first mission. So I also just got these couple homies here. And then you can also push Y. This is your command menu. So this is where you're going to be doing a lot of work. So you can flip your vehicle here. You can move loot crates. You can put vehicles into a garage. So if I bring back some cool vehicles like a tank, I move it close to this, our garage, quote unquote, and I push Y and I put the vehicle in the garage, and then I have it stored for later. I can also go fast travel. So if I have captured areas, I can fast travel. I can donate money. And if I play with friends, there's an option to disable this, but I usually just have it and then I just do it. You look at your buddy, you push Y, players and money, add server menu. And then they should have full access to your arsenal and be able to do everything they want with the base themselves and buying kit. So you want to add them as a server member. So if you're struggling to get your friends to be able to access stuff in your game, that's what you got to do. And this video is going on a little bit longer than I wanted, so I'm going to wrap it up here, but you have AI management, so you can take control of AI. You can tell them to get into vehicles, garrison them into buildings. So if I want to garrison these soldiers that I brought with me and make them guard Petros, I push F2 and F3 are the shortcuts. I push Y, go into AI management, garrison units, and I'm actually going to have to push F2 and F3 again, and then I select on the headquarters. Actually, that didn't work. So selecting them again, and there, they're put in. So sometimes it's a little bit messy to get them garrisoned, but now they'll stay garrisoned to the base. They'll defend the base and defend Petros from anyone that comes by. So there's a variety of things you can navigate here in the AI management screen, and that kind of goes later on in the game. And the final thing is the commander menu. You can recruit individual squads. You can see that I do that in one of my videos when we're attacking. I recruit a squad on foot to come assist me. You can add vehicles to your air support. So if you find planes, you can add them to your air support. You can clean garbage. So if your game's getting very laggy, There's a lot of assets on the ground, a lot of bodies. You can clean it with this option, but it does freeze your game. So typically I'd say before I do it, you can place or remove a rally point. So when you get close to a objective, you can put it down so you can fast travel. You can share money. You can resign if you don't want to be the commander. You can change limits. And you can move people out of a vehicle. And you can sell a vehicle for money. And then you have the second most main important thing, your command menu. So here you can call in supports. So say you want a smoke barrage, flare. There's a variety of things that unlock as you get air bases, but most of them you can't access early on. You got garrison management, where you can establish roadblocks, emplacements, all sorts of AI, create minefields. I'll show more of this stuff in action in my game, but I'm just giving you a quick rundown. You can add money, rebuild assets. You can train your soldiers so you can make them smarter, and you can also set their loadouts. So as you unlock better weapons, they'll take a default loadout of a better weapon, but if you want them to have specific weapons, then you can do that later on. Environment, you can change the fog level, overcast, you can rest. So early on when you don't have any night vision, if it gets night, you can rest to bring it back to day. Usually it's what I do because I just don't like fighting in the night, so at least you have that option there. Then you have music, paradrops, bout, and that's about it. So from there, that's basically how you get started. You do a few missions, you take on a few outposts, collect some resources, you watch my videos on how to do it, and then you see my campaign, and then you put it into your own. But either way, that's it for this, guys. That's my introductory video to Antistasi. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate everyone that's been following the channel and subscribing and commenting especially. I read everything. I appreciate everything. I'm trying to work. I have a different microphone now, so hopefully things sound okay. I'm trying to do things to better cut out the sound of my keyboards, and I'm just trying to improve my recording and quality of my editing as I go. So thanks to everyone for sticking by. I hope you enjoy the video, and have yourself a lovely day.